The Virtual Breakaway Podcast with your hosts Nick and Junior and producer Vince, bringing you elite fantasy hockey information to help you win your fantasy leagues and win at life.
Episode 51.
From coast to coast, we welcome listeners from Germany, the UK, US, and Canada.
Really? Is that real or are you just making it up?
That is absolutely real.
Excellent.
Wow, UK and Germany, we're on fire, ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
It sounded like a place from The Last Kingdom. You guys watch The Last Kingdom on Netflix? With Uhtred, son of Uhtred.
Oh, yes, of course I did. Yes, yes. Vikings.
Well, no, not
No, not quite.
The Last
There's another
Kingdom.
one. Okay.
And we're a hockey podcast, not Netflix.
There's a lot of Vikings in hockey, okay, my friend? I don't know if you saw, but
It's one episode away from the big one.
one
big
year.
one.
1 year that we've been doing this podcast. Episode 52 will actually be the 52nd week that we're doing this podcast. So that's a pretty nice milestone. We've actually made it. We haven't missed one.
And we're celebrating it by doing
A draft.
There you go.
Guys, this just in. Literally just in the last hour. We have a listener from Brazil.
Well, I mean, are you sure it's not a listener from Panama? Maybe he's using like a
VPN.
Maybe he's using his neighbor's Wi-Fi and they're in Brazil. I don't know.
Times are tough in Panama.
Yeah. Well, actually, he reached out to me. It's always nice to have feedback from our listeners. So, guys, always like, subscribe. Please leave your comments in YouTube. It's always fun to hear from you guys, especially that, we do this for free. We do this on our limited time.
Limited free time.
We all have multiple kids and
wives.
one wife each so far.
As far as we know.
It might turn into 0 wives if we continue this podcast, but so far so good.
Guys, we had the Loose Pucks draft today.
Yes, we did. And
How did you guys feel about that?
Well, the commissioner sucked.
Yeah, the commissioner absolutely blew
Man,
it.
you had to pause the draft so many times.
He absolutely blew it. We're not going to mention any names here, but he blew it.
Yeah, we're not mentioning any names, but if you're on video, you can see who I'm pointing at to my left.
Despite the technical difficulties.
So Junior's to my left, Vince to my right, and I am Nick. We are the 3 co-hosts of this podcast. I want to welcome the new listeners because we have seen an intake of new listeners to the podcast. So we want to introduce ourselves and continue to give you guys some good discussions.
What are we talking about today, Nick?
I thought you were going to give me like your favorite pick of the draft. You totally disregarded my Loose Pucks intro there.
Oh, no, I told you that my favorite part of the draft, it was the commissioner sucking. That was my favorite part of the draft. Okay, well, I don't know. Who was your favorite pick, Junior, for your team that nobody cares about?
Sandin Pellikka.
I like that pick, actually.
Yeah.
I
I'm
thought that
really
was
thin at
What
D.
round did you get him?
In the third round.
Not bad.
Third round.
Not bad. So just so you guys know, it's a keeper league. You could drop as many people as you want, but those that you drop, you have to pick up with new players. So it's 30 people total. So Sandin Pellikka becomes one of your
30.
30. Who was your favorite pick?
Demidov.
Demidov too. It's hard to say.
I only picked 2
Cue the
players.
Celine music.
So
Yeah. And I'm happy that I didn't have a first round pick because I won last year. And
stupid.
I ended up in my second round still getting Berkeley Catton. So I was very happy with that. We have 11 teams in the league, so it was my 13th or 14th pick that I had, and I ended up taking Berkeley Catton with that. I was excited that he was still there at that level. So he's my fourth best or third best forward in this draft, in my opinion.
Same for me. Third best forward, yeah.
So happy to get him in the second round. And even my Fraps and Riggs league draft that I had earlier in the week, I think it was Tuesday that we did that draft. I ended up getting Brooklyn Catton in the second round again. So he seems to be falling in these leagues, and very excited that I got him.
So after talking about all our leagues that we drafted and too many leagues that we drafted, what are we talking about that listeners are actually interested in?
Well, here's one. We have a Discord going on for Partial Breakaway Podcast. So anybody that wants, just message us. We'll send you a link. We'll be happy to invite people into our Discord because it's time that we start discussing some of these picks instead of getting some feedback from Instagram and from...
We will be more active in the Discord than we are.
Yeah.
I get it right on my phone.
Yeah,
Anytime anybody messages us, it's on my phone. I'll answer very quickly. We've already gotten some questions already regarding the Montreal Canadiens rookie tournament. One listener was reaching out to us to see who we thought was impressive or not, and we gave him some feedback there. Did we all change our Twitter handles?
Not yet, but I was just going to get to that. If you can follow us on social, on Instagram at Partial Break Pod, Twitter at Partial Break Pod, or X at this point in time. TikTok as well, and definitely on YouTube. Like, subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does wonders for us and our self-esteem. Boom.
All right. Should we go right into the lightning round?
The nitty-gritty. Let's go.
Lightning round. We don't have much.
We have a
left.
lightning round.
Yeah,
we do. We have two topics of conversation.
Let's go.
In the lightning round this week, we have Cole Perfetti signing. We all knew he was going to sign. We just didn't know what the amount was, and he ends up signing with Winnipeg. What are we expecting from Cole Perfetti? What do we think about the salary? How does it impact his value?
Bridge contract, 2 years. Salary is a decent salary. It's his usage where it'll be questioned. I don't know if there's any space for him on Winnipeg's top six. And from what I've been hearing, what other podcasters have been saying about him is that he's been getting bumped down because of him, not because of anybody else, but himself. So
Okay.
I think the kid has talent. I think he could easily play in that top six. I mean, who's in the top six in Winnipeg?
I think he's solid. He's been penciled in top six.
He's on a line with Ehlers and number 2 center Namestnikov. I think that's the biggest issue on that team right there.
But the issue is I think they want Perfetti to play as a centerman, but I think he's still way too young. And I don't think they think he has the capability to play as a centerman, so that's why he's on the wing, which value-wise will be better for him if he plays on the wing than in center.
What makes it difficult for him is that they're a team that needs to win now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to put a young guy like that as your number 2 center, and unfortunately for him. But on the wing, fantasy-wise, it's even better.
Well, he's a center.
I like this contract a lot, for
he's
sure.
a center right winger in Fantrax, which is good to have that dual eligibility, right? Because you want to be able to move him in and out of your lineup in different positions. So, like Velarde, similar contract right now, similar price tag.
Excuse me.
So we'll see if Perfetti. I think Perfetti does need to take a step forward because right now he's still
Speaking of step forward, 19 goals, 19 assists, 38 points last year in 71 games. Do you see him hitting 50 points?
I think he needs to start hitting that.
He should hit 50
as
points,
a second
right?
liner, he needs to hit 50 points at least.
I agree.
Next, we have Michkov. Made it clear during the draft that he actually wanted Philadelphia. So, interestingly enough, 32 Thoughts, the podcast, discussed the Michkov situation and how Daniel Briere has been doing really well with Russian players, bringing them over from Russia. And a lot of people and a lot of Habs fans complaining that we should have taken Michkov with that Reinbacher pick, right? And everybody was saying, well, we should have.
They're not wrong.
Except that
if he didn't want to come here,
he didn't
want
want to come here.
Yeah.
So Michkov made it clear that he didn't want this market. He wanted Philadelphia. And him and Briere, according to Elliot Friedman. So again, we're not talking about someone that's just throwing things in the air. We're talking about somebody that knows his stuff. He said that he didn't use the word manipulate, but pretty much
essentially that's what he said.
They manipulated the draft so that Michkov goes to Philadelphia.
Yeah. And it's not, he didn't just disregard Montreal. Anybody before Philadelphia.
Yeah.
He just wanted Philadelphia, according to Elliot Friedman.
I have a hard time believing things like this. A year after the kid was drafted, it's very easy to say, "Oh, I wanted Philly," because everybody passed on him besides Philly. So I'm iffy with that. I think he would have, whoever would have drafted him, I think he would have said, "Yes, that's the team I wanted to go with." I'm sorry.
No,
to say,
this is
I
not
don't-
that though.
I don't
This
think
is Elliot Friedman saying he manipulated the interview process to ensure that he
Yeah, but-
finished with Philly.
I have a hard time believing that.
Well, we see a lot more
Well,
players
it would
nowadays.
explain why so many teams passed on him.
Look.
He's really good.
Well, no, he's showing now in the preseason that he's really good. But before that, people had question marks about him.
They had
because he was
question marks on
Russian,
in his own end.
playing in
And
KHL.
Russian, yeah.
So
So in the end, the point is that players we're seeing players in the NHL that are being drafted have a lot more power. We're seeing it with Cutter Gauthier, who demanded a trade out, ended up landing in Anaheim. We see it with certain
McGroarty.
McGroarty, right? So, like, all this to say is that players are getting more power lately, and the draft seems to be another place that they're starting to get that power. And again, it's Elliot Friedman. It's not just now it's because it's Michkov got drafted there. That's why he's talking out of a place of knowledge.
maybe an offensive player like that go and play with Torts.
I don't think Torts is a factor.
What is it
questions.
about Philly? You know
Yeah,
that intrigues
exactly.
him over
What
all
is
the
it
other
that-
teams. But
Maybe opportunity. The fact that
Well, yeah,
he wants that market. He wants that.
Could be.
Maybe there's a Russian
Listen,
that lived
he-
in that area. I don't know. I don't know.
He,
Like a big Russian community. I know that Bobrovsky that was big on that when he went to Florida.
Florida, yeah.
maybe the vodka is better.
All right. Some injury news to talk about.
Brutal.
So let's start with Panarin. Panarin got injured. It seems that he's going to be ready for the start of the season.
Looks that way.
Okay. We know that Brad Marchand had off-season surgery. We know that he's in a full contact jersey at practice. So he seems like he's going to be ready as well. Drew Doughty helped off the ice, and I think it was noted that it was a fracture
Yeah, he's out for
in his ankle,
Month to month.
month to month.
But you can put half the season in the books for him.
And actually, one of the people that is supposed to take advantage of that is
Brant Clark.
Brian Clark is one of them, and Jordan Spence. So both of those, Jordan Spence got bumped to the top. He's playing on the first pairing, and he's going to get power play 2 time.
That's it.
Whereas Clark is probably going to be tried out on power play 1, and but second pairing, I think, if I'm not mistaken, or third pairing.
Third pairing with Edmondson to protect him, but he does have power play 1 as of right now.
So if you're going into your drafts, guys, keep in mind Doughty is injured. You might want to grab one of these handcuffs,
Yeah, exactly.
especially if you're in a salary league. Jordan Spence is 1.1 million, I think, 1.15 million, something like that.
It's a cheap risk to take.
That's right. Nylander gets helped by. So basically, what
You
happened?
had to go there.
I know. Well, it's not. You had to. It's an injury. You got to talk about it. So the fact of the matter is that Nick Robertson really wanted a spot on this lineup, so he decided to injure the player that's in front of him.
Stop it.
That's a joke. It was a meme. But the fact is that Nick Robertson did help speed up Nylander, who I guess wasn't expecting it, and ended up fumbling and falling into a Montreal Canadiens player's knee. And it looked like he was taken out for precautionary reasons because he has had a concussion.
He
history
skated
in
the
the
next
past.
day.
Yeah,
Was
he'll
everything
be
is
fine.
fine.
Berube
It's a
said
play
he'll
that
be fine.
happens all the time. I think that's just the difference between someone who's trying to make his way on the team and someone who's already on the team.
Well, we'll talk about somebody trying to make a name for himself in Toronto.
Yeah,
But before we
Shepard.
go there, before we get there, John Gibson, emergency appendectomy. Kaden Gooley, emergency appendectomy.
Umbi, listener Umbi, emergency
Listener
appendectomy.
emergency appendectomy. So basically, 3 to 6 weeks are saying Gibson is going to be out. Gooley is already starting to practice again, so he looks like he's going to be a little bit quicker than that because he had it in the off season. And the big injury was Saturday night's game.
Brutal.
Absolutely brutal. The listener from Panama said that it's our fault. We cursed him. We talked highly of Patrick Laine, and we are the jinx.
Why we? You both spoke highly of Patrick Laine, thinking he's going to score 30 goals or more.
Well, you said 25.
Yeah,
I said 25, but in this year. But after that,
Guys, either way, it looked brutal. The fact of the matter is that Cédric Paré from Toronto Maple Leafs, it was, let's not kid ourselves. We have a lot of Toronto fans that are actually in our Project Llama pool, and it was a consensus that it was a dirty play. He planted his leg in order to step up on a star player that was coming in the zone, and that leg that was planted snapped Laine's knee, basically.
But
we don't know the extent of the injury yet, but I'm going into all my drafts saying to myself that he is out for the season.
yeah.
At least I'm taking that mentality.
And this is hopefully Montreal learns from stupidity like this, because it was brought to my attention that apparently there was this deal with the Toronto Habs that when they played in Toronto would have played all their star players to fill up the arena. And when they played Montreal would have played their star
Well,
players.
this is the
It's
entire
around the
National
league.
Hockey
It's
League.
around the
and,
league.
and hopefully people understand from that, because these are owners that are greedy, want to make more money on preseason when preseason tickets are not cheap. Like they're not cheap. But this is what happens when you have a full lineup playing against guys that are trying to prove themselves to come into the NHL.
Yeah, the guy was
And-
trying to make a play to show up
But this,
a star,
this is the problem. This is you can't have, like, to me there's 6 preseason games. After the 3rd preseason games,
Well, okay, so that's collectively
yeah.
bargained. That's not up to the Montreal Canadiens. But what I would say is that instead of like keeping your stars out or anything like that, I would say that in the next CBA, I hope that they diminish the amount of preseason games, because there's too many preseason games.
most of these guys already know they're not making the NHL this year.
That's right.
Why have them play against NHL players?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense
But that's
from an organizational standpoint to put your best guys against guys that will do anything just to get a name.
but
Yeah.
but
Well,
that's,
now everybody knows who Cedric Paré is.
And it didn't
Exactly.
stop. It didn't stop with Laine.
No,
They tried on they stuck out their knee on Hudson. They were like they were flat out very physical and rough, purposely to ruffle the feathers, and most of it was legal. But from the Habs standpoint, why would you do that at home against all these scraps?
Because they need to sell tickets. This is what
But
this
play
is.
the scraps against, like, you have the prospect challenge, right? Let your prospects play in the prospect challenge. Send them where you need to send them. The AHL, do a fucking AHL fucking training camp.
No, but this is what
Leave
I'm
them out of the NHL, for crying out loud.
This is what I'm
swearing.
talking about. This is what
Sorry.
I'm talking about. I feel this is where the
Explicit.
Habs got greedy. And we're not going to spend. We're a fantasy hockey podcast. So we're not going to spend 10 hours on this. But to me, Habs got greedy on this, wanted to make money, and it cost them a player that a lot of people were excited about. That
Cost them playoff contention, like the fight for
I
playoffs.
didn't
Like
have them
now
in-
you don't even think about it.
So technically, if you guys were scrolling through Twitter after that injury and you just saw the Toronto fans saying that, Jack Guy deserves to be arrested and all these things for jumping him. Well, he did try, by the way, to fight him, and the guy was turtling, and he spun him around a few times before that. Anyways,
How pathetic, though. Last thing I'll say.
so hold on. Do you remember the playoffs when the Habs were playing against Toronto during COVID?
When the knee on Tavares' head.
Yeah, Neon Tavares' head. That was an accident,
Accidental, yeah.
an accidental play.
Foligno.
At the end of the day, Foligno said you have to fight because you injured one of our star players. And what did Corey Perry do? Okay, well, let's drop the gloves. And I don't agree with it, but let's drop the gloves and I'll fight you.
Yeah, that's what.
Now this guy is running around. He's a little AHLer,
Yeah, exactly.
running
Not so
around
little.
trying to get away, and he's laughing at the interview afterwards. Anyways,
But
my mental health is affected by the crappy teams I follow, the
No, but-
Raiders and the.
From an
Habs.
NHL standpoint, how pathetic that there was no penalty on the play, and because there was no penalty on a play that took a guy out probably for the season, you only fine a guy for assaulting a guy without warning instead of suspending him. So Jacky doesn't get suspended, whereas he should usually get suspended. And Paré doesn't get a penalty or a suspension when any other time he would have.
Yeah.
All right.
The NHL,
we're
the
good.
NHL is totally upside down.
We got it out of our systems. All right, boys.
All right, the fun stuff.
To the most important topic of this podcast for today.
I'm done.
We will be talking about tiers. We did goalies.
Yep.
We did defensemen. So basically, all there's left is forwards. Now, this will not be a 3-hour podcast.
We'll try not to make it.
So,
wow, we're 20 minutes in.
Yeah, exactly, because of your rant. So we Nick was generous enough to do the tiers. So once again, we broke players down in tiers. We'll name you all the players that we have in those tiers, but we'll just talk about specific players that maybe we think either should be somewhere else, up, down, and then we'll take it from there and see where the discussion takes us.
You said that very eloquently.
Not bad, huh?
It's not bad. I see you're improving.
Like a producer, you know?
So, Nick, take us into tier 1.
All right, so we're not going to name every single player, although I will kind of do that a little bit.
Didn't Vince just say you're going to name every single
Just
player?
name every single
Just
player.
name them. And then
we'll
So
just
in our
start.
tier 1, oh my God, you guys are still talking.
Just do it.
In our tier 1, we have Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Austin Matthews, Nikita Kucherov, David Pasternak, and lastly, Leon Draisaitl. We wanted to touch on Draisaitl a bit because I kind of feel like he belongs in tier 1, but not really. Maybe he belongs in tier 2. I mean, what do we have to say about Draisaitl, and where would you guys put him?
I would almost put him like right behind McDavid. I feel he's a player that could, like last year, 106 points. The year before that, 128 points. The year before that, 110 points. The year before that, 56 games, 84 points. Like he's just hit always 100 points. So there's not many players on that list that hit 100 points as many as Draisaitl did. And I feel like he's in his prime at 28 years old. He might be able to contend with McDavid and the scoring title at this point.
6 consecutive years pacing for over 100 points. That's tier 1, absolutely tier 1. And most leagues count goals for 2 or more points. 41 goals, 52 goals, 55 goals, 31 goals in 56 games, 43 goals in 71 games. To me, that's no-brainer tier 1.
Okay, so now that we said that, we've finished our tier 1.
But a lot of people don't necessarily see him as a top 5, top 3.
Well, that's the reason. That's the reason why we highlighted him as one person that we wanted to talk about, because I think you guys are absolutely right. This is a tier 1 player, and he belongs in tier 1. But there is some narrative out there that some people don't think he should be in this tier. So that's why we highlighted him. The next tier is a little bit interesting. We have Jack Hughes, Mikko Rantanen, Matthew Tkachuk, William Nylander, Panarin, Marner, Kaprizov, Pettersson, and Crosby. So let's talk about Mitch Marner, because he's hit 100 points before. Shouldn't he be in tier 1 as well with Draisaitl? Why don't we have him there?
Mitch Marner never hit 100 points.
You're right.
He hit 99 points.
In 80 games.
Points.
But in 4 consecutive years, he paced for over 100 points. 100 points plus in 4 consecutive years. And the 2 years before that was 93 and 94. The only thing that makes him drop for me 1 tier, and he's at the top of tier 2 if he's in tier 2, is because he doesn't score as many goals. So in most leagues, like we say over and over again, goals are worth more, and he doesn't score as many to be considered tier 1. But man, if you take him in tier 1, you're not disappointed either. Like you're just not taking him over those other guys, but he should be the top guy in your tier 2.
What about Sidney Crosby? Because Sidney Crosby...
Whoa, I have something to say about Mitch Marner. What's your problem?
Like what is this, a race? Like
Mitch Marner is gonna before every game he's gonna watch that movie with Tom Cruise. Show me the money. That's what he's gonna just show me the money, because he's going to have a career year, and Toronto is going to have to show him the money.
Say
That's
it to the camera, Vince.
Show me the money. That's it. Mitch Marner, I'm telling you now, contract year, especially after everybody's been shitting on him, he's get over 100 points.
I'm so
guaranteed.
excited to see
I'm
that happen,
so-
by the way. I really, and then I want to see what Toronto
And
does when he asks for 15 million.
we're putting that clip on. Show me the money.
All right.
I'm looking forward to Mitch Marner's season. I really, really am.
All right. Sidney Crosby.
Listen, people keep on saying this is the year that he's gonna, slow down and he took a 2-year contract, same salary, but I think this guy takes care of himself way too well to slow down, and he's proven that no matter with who he plays, he'll still get those points. So I don't see him going under tier 2.
I'm going to give you a little stat from our actual Llama League. Sidney Crosby is the most traded player in Project Llama. He's been traded the most times. Why? Because 5 years ago, some moron, probably myself,
Nick.
said, well, this guy's going to start slowing down. I mean, he's hitting age 34, 5 years ago was 32. So maybe now's the time for me to capitalize on his seasons of 90-plus points every single year by trading him now because he's going to start slowing down. Well, I traded him, and the guy I traded him to, I think, won 2 years out of 3 the next following years. So, again, eat crow, Nick. But at the end of the day, this guy's just not slowing down. And I think you're absolutely right. I think he's one of those generational talents. I think he's one of those guys that's just so well taken care of that I at this point, I think he's going to play till 50.
I just really hope whenever the time comes that he leaves the game, he leaves on a high note. Not necessarily a champion, but like still an effective point producer. I hope he doesn't get to the point where he's just like
he is
not relevant.
He is not finishing his career with Pittsburgh.
Ooh, hot take.
He signed a 2-year contract. He gave Dubas 2 years to build this team. If Dubas
So this
does
year
not
plus another 2.
build this team after this contract, he is going somewhere else to win a cup.
I think it's a hot take, and I think it's absolutely wrong. I think Sidney Crosby absolutely wants to be the player that starts and finishes his career in Pittsburgh and possibly even owns the club.
He said that he's all about winning. He took $8.7 million because he's more interested in winning than money.
In Pittsburgh.
No, he did not say Pittsburgh.
I think you're reading.
I can't wait.
I think he's a legacy guy, but
he's a legacy
anything can turn the switch.
Ray Bourque wasn't a legacy guy.
But he hadn't won a cup yet.
Doesn't
That's
matter.
right.
He hadn't won a cup.
That's exactly the difference.
When's the last time Crosby won a cup with Pittsburgh?
But he's won multiple
won.
cups.
Yeah, but like 10 years ago?
Okay, moving on.
Come on.
Our next tier, Jason Robertson, Philip Forsberg, Jake Gensel, Tage Thompson, Jack Eichel, Braden Point, Brady Tkachuk, JT Miller. Okay, so just to give the listeners an idea, JT Miller is the 23rd player in this list. So, do we want to talk about Tage?
I do. I think that ridiculous season he had in 2022, 2023 has almost propelled him to like a status that he hasn't earned. And I feel it. I mean, I like the player a lot. I think based off his skill set, he was a late bloomer. People were expecting, like he's still young, but I think people were expecting him to get out of his shell a little earlier than he did.
He's a bit of a unicorn.
Yeah, like at that size and that skill and that mobility, it's something that's rare in the NHL. But like 94 points in 78 games in 2023, I feel like that was like I don't know if he should be in this tier. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends the season in this tier, but he's only done it once. He's paced for 71 points the season before, and then last year was a bad season. He had a few injuries, but 65-point pace. I don't know if we should naturally just give him this third tier off one single season of beating all odds.
Oh, one of my favorite songs. Will the real Slim Shady please stand up? Well, will the real Tage Thompson please show up? And this is going to be this year. If this year he puts up another 70 to 75 points, we can honestly say that is his moment of where he's going to go. He's not a 95-point player. He's maybe a point per player, because this is the year where he's going to prove. Last year, 56 points in 71 games. Before the 94 points, he got 68 points in 78 games. So this is the point where is he a one-hit wonder, or is he actually can keep up with that 80 to 90 points per season?
Nick, I did it with Vince last week,
Ooh.
so I'm going to do it with you this week. I think this is one's going to be good.
Are you moving him from
No.
the player, or because I have something to mention about the player?
It's
that's
Tage
fine.
Thompson.
Okay.
So I'll list the players you have in this tier, and you tell me who you take, the player I mentioned or Tage Thompson, and then you give your take on Tage. So Sidney Crosby was the previous one, right?
That's
so
previous,
Jason
yeah.
Robertson or Tage Thompson?
I think I have to go with Robertson here.
Philip Forsberg,
Forsberg,
Jake Gensel,
Gensel,
Jack Eichel,
Eichel,
Braden Point,
Point.
Brady Tkachuk. Oy, that's where it gets fun.
Tage.
JT Miller.
Again, well, look, I'm basing this only on a points-only league,
Yeah.
right? Because hits and stuff, Brady Tkachuk jumps
Yeah, of
up
course.
much higher. So I just wanted to clarify.
Regular, like goals and assists, whatever.
Yeah.
Points league. JT Miller.
JT Miller.
Okay, and I'll just name two more from the next tier. Reinhardt and Barkov.
Tage.
Okay, so he's
Even
in the right
Barkov,
tier,
Tage.
but he's at the bottom of the tier.
I think he's in the right tier, but bottom of the tier. I agree with that. Now, one thing that I'll mention that none of the other guys might have is that Tage Thompson,
If the price is right, no.
It's on the
the
mark.
price is right. The guy is getting paid $7.1 million. So in a cap league, his production of 65 points, I mean, that's not bad. But that was a bad year. If he pulls a point per game, like Vince said, 7.1 million is a steal.
Yeah.
So that's where you got to look at the value. You got to look at your league. You got to make sure that your league, if it's a salary league, that's where you might have Tage Thompson a little bit higher than other guys on that list, like Eichel, that have $10 million, right? So that's $3 million more. You could use that $3 million in another position.
But I feel this is the year where he needs to. This is the year where we'll know who Tage Thompson really is.
Right.
Given he stays healthy.
Yeah, he's 26. I mean, this is the year.
Well, here's another tier that we're going to talk about.
Oh,
Do you
we
guys
forgot.
want to? Oh, sorry. Did I forget a player? Oh, we did. Oh, somebody wanted to talk about Braden Point.
Okay, the only reason I want to talk about Braden Point was this: 2 years in a row, he did 9-year plus points with Tampa. No Stamkos, so 2022, 2023, 95 points. 2024, 2025, 90 points last year, with 51 goals and 46 goals each respectable season. No Stamkos. Yes, they have Gensel, but I feel Braden Point, because of last year and the chemistry Braden Point had with Kucherov, made it easier for Brisbane to say goodbye Stamkos. And I feel right now the team is basically, the core of that Tampa Bay team is Braden Point and Kucherov. And I feel Braden Point could hit the 3-digit point, 100-point pace at some point. If not this year, maybe in the next 2 years.
Back-to-back seasons, 20+% shooting percentage.
He's been shooting 46 goals and 51 goals. He's been shooting more than,
And for a small guy, last 2 seasons, 81 and 82 games played.
and perfect player to play with Kucherov, who can
Set him up.
like.
Yeah, no, I like
Nine.
Braden Point a lot. I see him flirting with the 100 points too this year.
Okay.
This is his prime.
Moving on to the next tier.
Si, senor.
Okay. I have Sam Reinhart, Alexander Barkov, Connor Bedard, Matthew Barzal, Timo Meyer, Jesper Bratt, Sebastian Aho, and Zach Hyman. Just to give the listeners an idea, all of these players are between 24th overall and 31st overall in our forward rankings. So, again, top 30 forward is still quite good in this whole tier. Kind of wanted to touch base a little bit on Barzal. Because Barzal is a player that's 9.1 million. So it's a hefty price tag.
9.1?
Yes.
I did not know that was his tag.
Hefty price tag.
It's the first year of his new contract, I believe, no?
I think it was last year, his first year. Because I paid for it. The fact of the matter is that Matthew Barzal started shooting a lot more. He was moved to the wing. We spoke about him in our Islanders preview. I want to know, is this a player that we should have in this tier? And is he doing enough to merit that 9.1 million salary?
I think considering his past, it is a player that is in this tier because he's only flirted with a point per game twice in his career.
Well, he did it last year.
Well, yeah, 88. That's it twice. 80 and 82, 85. But the rest of the times it's all under 65, except for that 1 year where it was 58 and 51. So, but I don't want to put the whole blame on Barzal because he played with the New York Islanders. And the system they played was just, we all, like when the New York Islanders are on TV, we all know. We changed stations and watched something.
Not
else.
us. We listen. We are hosts of a podcast, so we watch.
We definitely changed.
Actually, I
station.
watch ever since I traded for Barzal. I watched the games.
But this year,
and they're what too?
But this year, I feel with Patrick Roy, he's bringing in a new system. Brought in Duclair, who in the preseason looks like Barzal has a good chemistry with. So I feel this is the year where he's 27 years old. Time flies. I remember him as a freaking 8 and 20-year-old coming off the league in his first season, 85 points in 82 games.
You could say he hit his prime last year.
Yeah, exactly.
Started his prime.
So this is it now. He hit 80-80. So can he keep that pace up now for the next 5 years? So this is going to be the year. I think personally he could, just because the system has completely changed, and I think they're actually concentrating on offense and not putting 5 people behind the puck all the time. So I feel for Barzal owners, this might be the year where you're going to be like, wow, that 9.1 is not going to hurt me.
I just wish he scored a bit more goals. And it's funny, we have him in this tier, but I see a guy like Dylan Larkin above Barzal, and Dylan Larkin's in our next tier. We'll talk about him then, but actually we're not really going to talk about him, so I'll just say something. But the last 3 years, he's paced for 80-plus points. Scores more goals than Barzal. I think Barzal, to Vince's point, was on in a system that didn't allow him to show his creativity as much. What's very promising going into next season is the 240 shots on goal he had last year. By far his best, even on pace for 82 games, was by far his best. So if that continues, then he finally might get those goals. He's only hit 20 goals twice in his career. So if you guys, like you said, 27 years old, this is the time now you enter your prime. If you start shooting more and he gets to 25 goals a year, that's going to be very satisfying for Barzal owners for sure.
Yeah, I see Larkin and Barzal pretty similar in the amount of shots on goal. If Barzal continues this 240 plus or whatever, that's pretty much Dylan Larkin numbers. Point per game pace, you're not looking at them being higher than that necessarily, although we don't know. And they're similar age. I mean, Larkin's a year older, but they're all in their prime. So, yeah, I could kind of see how that's somebody that you want to put in that tier. We have somebody that's interesting because he's playing on New Jersey, but last year was his kind of feeling out year and didn't do very well coming from San Jose, and that's Timo Meier. Timo Meier and Barzal are in the same tier. Does that make sense? Would you put him in a lower tier? I don't know.
I would put Timo Meier in the lower tier.
So you would switch, let's say, Larkin and Meier.
100%, yeah. Yeah, even Kyle Connor, which we'll talk about, because, I mean, you're looking at Timo Meier's stats from when he started in the league. None of those years really pop out at you except for 21-22. 70 games and 76 points. 57 games, 52 points. But after that, before that, it was not good. And after that, it was just not good. Like last year, 69 games played, 52 points. So, but New Jersey was a difficult team last year, right? The whole pressure was that New Jersey was going to team that was going to compete against the Rangers to finish first in the division, and like their goalies completely let them down. So I think at the beginning, I think right now he's in a tier 2 high, but once the season starts, mid-season, we're going to say yes, he belongs in that tier, because I feel New Jersey will take that step forward this year.
Oh, you guys know, based off our rankings, I have New Jersey very high, and when we do our predictions for Stanley Cup before the season starts, I think they're going to be up there in contention. Meyer, it was said he had lingering issues last year that he didn't use as an excuse, but he did. He started off slow. He had 11 points. He had 15 points in 28 games. Very promising how he ended the year. 23 points in 20 games. He's on the line right now with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt. So if that continues, I expect a much better season from Timo Meier. Point per game, I'm not sure, but 70 to 75 points, I think it's very achievable for him if he stays healthy.
More goals
than assists. Yeah,
that's if you're in a league where there's goals count more, I think he'll be good.
Yeah, he's like that 40-25, 40-30. I can see him scoring 40 goals on regularly.
Okay, so between 32 and 42, or between 33 and 43, we have Kyle Connor, Zibanejad, Ovechkin, Jordan Kyrou, Stamkos, Clayton Keller, Stützle, Hischier, Johnston. We have... Well, you mentioned you wanted to maybe talk about Kyle Connor. Did you want to talk about him, or?
Kyle Connor he's a goal scorer. No,
This is the type of reason you tune into this podcast.
I mean, if you're in leagues where something like, if you're in a league like Nick was talking about, where block shots, hits, all those little things count, Kyle Connor will not be up there in points. Like, Kyle Connor scores. Assists are secondary, but everything else he doesn't do. He doesn't hit. He doesn't block shots. So I feel like...
To your point, he only had 14 hits last year and 20 blocks total.
How many goals, Nick? Sorry.
34.
In 65 games.
65
No, exactly. That's it. Like, that's why he'll be one that can put up 50 goals. But if you're in a league that has a lot of stats, he might not be the guy to draft.
Multi-category.
Yeah, exactly. Not the guy to draft so high.
Yeah, but if he's a point per game player, he's still very draftable in those leagues.
Yeah, he wasn't last year.
Last year, 70. He was on pace for 77. The year before, 81. The year before that, 97, 73, 84. So like he fluctuates a little bit, but I think he can be a point per game player. 35,
could be, yeah.
45. Like he does a bit of both. I mean, the peripherals are not there, that's for sure. But
okay,
actually, speaking of peripherals, I don't know if it depends the league, but they're trying him and Scheifele on the penalty kill. I like when you touch my hand. They're trying him and Scheifele on the penalty kill this year to give them a bit more ice time and responsibility. So that could be interesting. Scheifele on the penalty kill.
That penalty kill will have 20 goals and a minus 55.
Guys, thank God for Hellebuck. That's all I'm saying. Thank God for Hellebuck. Clayton Keller.
I've always loved this kid. Always, since he came into the NHL, he came in with such a terrible organization in Arizona, but 26 years old, and I feel in the last 2 years he's established himself as an easily can get a point per game player, and I wanted to talk to him about, because I think he could hit the 40 to 45 goals.
Wow.
Well, I mean, he did 37.
Well, he did 37.
Yeah,
one time.
33 last year.
But you see, the last 3 seasons, 67 games, 63 points. 82 games, 86 points. 78 games, 76 points. So he's there with the point per game.
Yeah.
I just feel with the way that the Utah hockey club is set up right now, I feel this is the year where he can take that step in goals, which
He's hitting his prime.
yeah,
Right.
at 26 years old, this is what it is. So
He's hitting his prime, and he's finally in a situation that feels good.
Yeah.
He's in a city and a state that is going to support the
We've
team.
said it before. It's not Mullet Arena, right?
It's not Mullet Arena, and these young guys coming up like Logan Cooley, Guenther.
Guenther looks good.
Did they draft Tijagilna?
yes,
Yes.
Tejagina,
Tijagilna.
Josh Doan.
They traded for Sergachev. They've got Dursey. Guys, this is an up and coming team, man. They have what's wrong?
Stop banging
the
your
table.
hand.
They've got no. I agree with everything Vince said. I expect him to be a 90-point player.
Really?
Yeah, going forward, I think he can hit 90 points consistently.
Wow. Well, the last person in this tier we had was Robert Thomas. So I think Junior owns him and wanted to talk about him to raise his draft value.
I actually do not own him.
Oh, you don't?
I've tried multiple times to acquire him without success. But I think Robert Thomas has arrived. And I think we shouldn't sleep on him. Although he doesn't score as many goals, like last year he had 26 goals, 60 assists, 86 points in 82 games. The season prior to that, he was on pace for 73, and the season before, 87. So I think it's safe to say Robert Thomas should be a point per game player. What do you
Jesus.
I'm trying to find my water bottle. Another water bottle.
Just Jerry Maguire. That was the movie I was talking about. It was
show me the money?
Show me the money. Jerry Maguire. Damn, it was killing me that I couldn't get.
Okay, everybody, don't sleep on Robert Thomas and Jerry Maguire, all right? But
So glad I found out.
so Robert Thomas
What a way to interrupt him.
makes for good radio, I guess. Oh man. Anyhow, so whatever. Let's move on.
So whoever was really looking forward to that Robert Thomas, just go watch Jerry Maguire.
170 shots on goal last year, huge improvement. That's why I expect more of the same from Robert Thomas.
He's still more of an assist guy than a goal guy, right?
Yeah,
Like,
he could maybe hit 30 goals on his best
Yeah.
years, but he's
So
still a
on-
point per
on
game
leagues
player.
where goals are more important, he maybe shouldn't be drafting so high, but he's still good for, like Junior said, 80 to 82 points.
And
per
power
season.
play and shorthanded does a bit
Yeah.
of both.
Yeah, exactly. If your leagues give extra points for that, that's good too.
So the next tier is starting with somebody that I'm going to drop most likely in this list. But,
Jerry Maguire.
good movie, by the way. John Tavares, Kevin Fiala, Vincent Trocheck, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, Adrian Kempe, Nazim Kadri, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Bo Horvat, Carter Verhaeghe, Alex Tuck, Matt Boldy, Brock Nelson, Rupe Hintz. And Rupe Hintz brings up our 56th player on this forward ranking. Again, just to give you guys at home an idea of how many players we've ranked so far. I want to talk about John Tavares
Oof, you going
because with the William Nylander experiment as the number 2 center, John Tavares has been kind of pushed to the third line. And he's just not as fantasy relevant on the third line, I think. At least not 5-on-5. He's still going to have his power play time. But John Tavares might need to start. He slowed down a bit. I think most of Toronto knows this already. They know that at this point in his contract, he is not worth, obviously, the money that he's getting, but he's still a very valuable player. Now, I don't know if is he going to stay at center? Are they going to maybe try to move him to the wing? But if he stays at center, he's a third liner. Is that still fantasy relevant for us?
How long will he be a third liner? The guy still put up 65 points in 80 games last year, 67-point pace. But the seasons before, he was close to a point per game player. Is it the beginning of the drop? Maybe. But I think if you don't look at his salary, he can still be relevant in a redraft league. In a
it's not a
non-cap
salary,
league.
non-cap league, yeah.
Cap leagues, he's not relevant. At $11 million,
Well, I think LPHL draft just finished. Nobody picked him up.
No,
He was
11
dropped and nobody picked him up.
$11
Yeah.
million dollars. It's way his salary is way too high.
Contract year too, though, eh?
But that's it. That's what I was about to say. So it's a contract year. So I feel that 65 points is going to get boosted maybe to 70, 75 points. Berube likes those type of responsible players. So he might get a bit more ice time. I do agree that, but I still feel Nylander is a better player playing on the wing than a center.
Well, we haven't really seen it.
No.
But yes, the thing is, Nylander last year didn't really get much of an opportunity at center. And the coaching staff, Sheldon Keefe in particular, would move him out after like a game or two. And Nylander stated to Berube and said, if you're going to try me out at center, I need to have more than a couple of games here and there. It has to be like a consistent center tryout.
20 games minimum.
20 games, maybe 20 games, yeah, but let me show and learn and see what I could do as a center. So it's just something to keep an eye on because Max Domi at center, he's just not responsible defensively enough. Nylander at center, I'm not sure.
Well, it's funny because the projected line is Domi, Nylander, and Yarncroc, and I think all three of them can play center. So whatever that means. But John Tavares still has power play 1. So he's not to be discounted completely.
And that power
Well, I
play
mean,
is
he's
potent.
still in our top 50 players, right?
Yeah, and I think it's merited. Like he deserves to be in the top 50.
One quick question about one of the players that's in those tiers. Obviously, Montreal Canadiens. Cole Caulfield. Does he hit 40 goals? Does he even hit 30 goals?
This year?
Yeah.
I don't think he hits
What
40.
do you guys think?
I don't think he hits 40.
I think 30 would be
he needs to hit 30. He
Would be
needs to.
minimum.
He needs to hit
would
30.
be the floor.
That's it. That's why I asked.
30,
'cause-
35,
Because
he
remember
has to.
coming in, everybody's at 50, 50 is the net 50, and he hasn't even hit 30. Okay, yes.
Maybe he's still young.
You need to get off.
23,
You need to get
20.
off Habs Twitter.
No. But 23 is old. 3 seasons in, hasn't hit 30 yet. I feel the goal for Caulfield right this year is just to at least hit 30.
30 with 70-point pace. I think is
exactly.
is
But
what
it-
I would be expecting from Cole
But
Caulfield
if he
this
doesn't, does it become worrisome after?
year. No.
I mean, he's still,
Still
young. He's on a
really
team.
young.
He's on a team that's not
So-
ready to win either. But
Okay.
but he's on the top line.
He still
So
has a leash.
He's not even in his prime.
No, I know, but
If
he
we
still has
consider
a
his
long
prime
leash.
between 26 to 31,
Mm-hmm.
right, which we've said before, 25, 26, he's 23 years old.
No, that's what I'm saying. So the leash is still long
Absolutely.
enough.
Absolutely.
oh yeah, at his age, I'd say so. And it's not like he's hitting 20 goals. Like he's hitting 28, 20. Like he's getting
Yeah.
close to 30. So naturally, the progression would be he would have to hit 30 for sure.
And I think, don't forget, last year he was coming off a shoulder injury, and he still hit 28 goals. I think 30 is peanuts for him right now. It's more whether he's going to hit 35 or 40 eventually, right? Okay. So we spoke about 2 players in this tier. Did anybody else want to talk about somebody in this tier?
No, good.
No. I think we're good.
I question how much RNH would really, if he really belongs there. But anyways, I guess I would probably move him a little bit lower, but he's top 50 right now as a forward. Maybe dual eligibility plays a role there. Anyways, next tier, starting with 57, we have Alex DeBrincat, Braden Hagel, Travis Konechny, Chris Kreider, Eriksson Ek, Buchnevich, McCann, Jarvis, Lucas Raymond, Sveshnikov, Cousins. Oh my God, this is a big tier. Somebody stop
Okay,
me.
maybe you don't have to name them all. But,
Okay, thank you. Mark Sheffield. Anyways, so out of those players that I just mentioned, I think we had something to say about the Brinkat. Somebody had something to say about the Brinkat?
Yeah, I did. The Brinkat is. I feel he's getting into the Tage Thompson conversation of were those seasons of 41 goals and 32 goals in 52 games a one-off. Because now it's back-to-back, 27 goals, 66 points, 67 points. Is this his zone where he's gonna stick between 60 to 70 points? And this year's gonna be interesting because you'll have Patrick Kane
The whole season.
the whole season. And we know in Chicago they had a really good chemistry together. Detroit's also hoping to take that extra step forward. So his season will be interesting. He could be a player that mid-season we'd say, oh, we had him ranked too low, or oh crap, we had him ranked way too high. So that'll be the interesting storyline for them.
Yeah, $7.9 million. For a 65, 67 point guy, it's average, I guess, but you wish you could have a bit more.
I think you're hoping that he hits back to that 40 goal, regardless if it's 67 points. Get me 40 goals.
Yeah.
And for a small guy, 3 consecutive seasons, 82 games played.
All right, moving on. Konechny was another person that I think Vince wanted to speak about, and then I'm gonna do a little bit more lightning round for this tier because it's a very long tier. And we're hitting up 55 minutes of the podcast. So
Look at that. Listen, Travis Konechny, the biggest thing last year, 33 goals, 35 assists, 68 points. The Michkov effect, we'll see how it affects Travis Konechny. Last year, we could easily say he was the go-to guy to get points for Philly. Michkov's there, so it will be a positive or a negative towards him. So that's gonna be an interesting thing to keep up with Philly.
I'm expecting point per game pace from Lucas Raymond this year. Anyways, I'm just throwing that out there.
And by the time he enters his prime, he'll be better than a point per game player.
And I'm expecting Svechnikov to stay exactly where he is, not a 1 point more than he had last year. Because he's proven to me time and time again that he is who he is, and everybody keeps waiting for him to become this superstar.
But
and he's
if
just
he
not
plays
doing
a
it.
full season,
Nah.
but that's the problem, right? The history tells us you can't predict he'll play a full season, which is why we can't list him higher. But statistically speaking, on an 82 game pace, he's probably a couple of tiers higher.
Okay.
Dylan Strome, quickly.
Before you get to Dylan Strome, I had Bushnevich up here. Just keep an eye on Bushnevich. He's not playing with Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou. He's playing as a center on the second line. So we got to see how that works out.
He'll still be on PP1, so it'll be okay.
But last year he was split a lot from Robert Thomas and Kyrou. It was on and off, and he was also injured quite a bit. Just keep an eye on Dylan Strome. I don't know why people keep passing on him now, but I think this is a player who clearly has entered his prime, and he's 66 points, 67 points in the last 2 seasons, 81 games played, 82 games played. He's on a much better surrounding team.
No, we have someone who raised his hand.
And I expect him to be between 65 and 70 points at $5 million. That's fantastic.
Lightning round on your side. Who would you take, Marchessault or Dylan Strome?
Ooh.
Dylan Strome.
So we have, just to give you an idea, we have Marchessault as the 69th player, Dylan Strome as our 72nd player.
I would take Dylan Strome.
You would take Dylan Strome over Marchessault. Brian Russ or Dylan Strome?
Dylan Strome.
Elias Lindholm or Dylan Strome?
Who wants to walk with Elias?
I ain't walking with Elias. Dylan Strome.
Brad Marchand or Dylan Strome?
Ooh. That one's close. Brad Marchand.
Mark Scheifele?
Mark Scheifele.
Okay. So Svechnikov?
Svechnikov.
Okay, so that's basically where you have him. So you would have him a little bit higher, but not too high. Maybe 5 spots higher than we have him now.
Yeah.
Okay. Brad Marchand, we've already spoken about his surgeries, and we spoke about the fact that he is practicing again. Owen Tippett looks like I'm questioning whether he's going to have a good year in Philly, but he's our 74th player.
Why do you question it?
I'm curious as to how much goal scoring there will be in Philly that Tippett is going to be part of, because Konechny is there. I think Konechny is playing the same position as Tippett. You have Michkov there, who is the other winger, right? Like, where's Tippett fit? Where does he fit in that lineup?
I mean, he's done it without Michkov.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But now I'm feeling he's getting pushed down.
Right now, he's projected to be on the line with Michkov and Morgan Frost.
The Philly problem is their centerman.
Yeah.
They don't have a very good centerman as much as I like Sean Couturier.
Until Luchanko comes.
Yeah. Oh, that kid's been proving people wrong, my
He
friend.
looks good.
Yeah, he's going to be a good player for Philly. But that's the problem with Philly right now is their center position. I feel they're a little weak on their center positions.
Talking about weak center positions, is Evgeny Malkin slowing down? Well, we kind of had a comment from a listener not too long ago saying that it was a very special season where Malkin just didn't have it well, but he's expecting a big bounce back from Malkin. And he listed a good points of why, and he follows Malkin very closely. Do we think that he starts coming up, or are we fading Malkin here?
Fading him how though? Like I see him between 65 and 70 points. Like for me, that's what I expect. If he does better than that, Tom Muir, like even better. He had good chemistry, by the way, to end the season with Bunting after they acquired him. So I'm looking forward to see
if that power play can get going.
That's another
Because his bread and butter is on the power play, right? So if that power play can get chemistry, he can get over that 70
Only
points.
6 power play goals last year.
Yeah, exactly. The power play was completely awful, and they thought Cross and Letang would have been one of the best ones, right? So
Yeah.
that power play is going to have a lot to do with Malkin's points.
Jake DeBrusk, 76th overall. Nikolai Ehlers, Martin Nakash, Logan Cooley, Dylan Guenther, 80th overall for forwards. I think, Junior, you had something to say about Dylan Guenther?
No,
Or?
you wanted to speak about him. I own him, so I'm the asterisk.
He's had a great preseason. I think he's picked up exactly where he left off at the end of last season. He is looking like somebody that maybe is going to belong higher up than some of these players. I won't spend too much time, but I think Dylan Guenther is going to be one that's going to do very well this year in Utah. Brock Besser, Troy Terry playing with McTavish and with Zegras. We spoke about it a little bit off air. So that's going to be an interesting lineup.
Yeah.
We'll get to it, I think.
Yeah.
JJ Peterka.
I like that player.
Look forward to JJ Peterka, man.
I feel he's going to have a breakout season, JJ Peterka. He's just...
This is the year that people will finally take him seriously.
Exactly.
And start drafting him a little bit higher next year. But if you can get him like at a good value,
he
could be a league winner for sure.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of other guys here, but I just wanted to...
We'll have a consensus list, hopefully, by this week on goalie, defensemen, and forwards on rankings. We're not going to go 200 players ranking in, but
Come on.
we'll try to give you guys as much as possible, or you can just use it as a guide for your drafts.
Do we have a sleeper each?
Ooh.
Yeah. Let's do a sleeper and a fade. I think we have time for both. Let's just do it.
All right.
Vince, you want to go first?
You want me to go first? Okay. My sleeper and my fade. So my fade to me is Sam Reinhart. I think last year was I don't believe he'll hit 50 goals this year again. I think it was a long season for Florida Panthers. I think because they lost a lot defensively, their offense is going to suffer when it comes to that. So I feel Sam Reinhart, who is getting drafted very high in some leagues, is my fade, is the one who's going to not replicate what he did last year. My sleeper, Troy Terry, plays with the Anaheim Ducks. Everybody thinks, why would he? Because he showed he had the capabilities to put up the points, especially the goals, but never had a solid centerman or a consistent centerman or player to play with. The way they've done it this year was, we're going to play McTavish and we're going to play him, who did you say with?
Zegras, McTavish, and Terry.
So, and I feel Anaheim is much more structured this year. So I feel a bounce back year from Troy Terry, where he'll go back to the days where he made Nick win his LPHL pool.
That's almost every year.
Yeah.
Why don't you go with your sleeper?
Okay, so I'll start with my fade, and we spoke about it during the team previews. It's Tyler Bertuzzi. Tyler Bertuzzi is my fade. The reason is I think he'll be drafted higher than he should be. And it's not necessarily because he won't put up points. It's just don't expect 70 points from this guy just because he's supposedly playing with Bedard. That's not gonna help.
The Sidney Crosby curse
Effect. Yeah, exactly. So my fade is Tyler Bertuzzi. If you're expecting 50 to 60 points from him, perfect. If you expect more, then you're doomed. You're just looking for disappointment. And my sleeper, to jump on Vince's their line mates, it's Trevor Zegras. I don't think you should be scared of the trade rumors. Everything that happened last year, all the talk is a little bit of BS right now. He's on a top line in Anaheim, a team that I think will take a step forward. So Zegras should be back to his point-getting ways. Last year in 31 games had 15 points, which was not very good. 66 points pace the year before that, and 67 the year before that. I expect him along the same lines this year, 65 to 70 point pace. So my fade, Tyler Bertuzzi, and my sleeper, Trevor Zegras, because you could get good value for him considering where he's being drafted.
Nicholas.
All right. I'll start with my sleeper because, I don't know, I just want to be positive for once.
Because you're sleepy.
Matty Beniers is my sleeper.
Ooh.
And we have him kind of in the 106, but I think that this is a player that could easily go to 65 points this year. Just to give you an idea on how hot this take is, last year he had 37 points.
Wow.
Hot take!
I like that hot take because I got him on my team. So
I think he's going to go to 65 points. I think that he's only 22 years old starting this season. Mm-hmm. He literally is turning 22 years old in November. So, very young guy. He had a little bit of a sophomore slump last year. I really am expecting Matty Beniers to have a much bigger season this year. My fade, Mark Stone.
ooh,
And Mark Stone, I mean,
Ruptured spleen. What's the reason?
it's
Dislocated finger.
you know what? Great player. I'm not going to say he's not a great player. And he actually had a pretty good point pace last year. But again, 56 games played last year, only 43 the year before that. He just can't stay healthy. Or maybe he just needs his salary cap space for the playoffs. But either way, he's a loose leaf paper. And you have to start he's starting his age 32 season. It's not like he's getting healthier. You know, I feel like for $9.5 million, especially if you're in a cap league, Mark Stone is not a person that you could rely on.
It's a really old 32.
no, it feels
Because
like,
of the beating he took.
It
his
feels
body
like he's
took.
37
Yeah.
because of the way he plays. So it's tough. I feel Vegas as a team is starting to go into that trend of older players that are getting a little slower, tired. Pietrangelo, Stone. So.
Well,
it'll be interesting.
Speaking of Vegas, to give a shout out to one of our listeners, I wish I had it with me. I don't know if you guys could pull it up, but one of the listeners commented angrily to our Vegas preview, saying we didn't really preview them
We
because
still
we didn't speak
appreciate
of.
the listen and the comments. It's always good for...
My point is, he
podcast.
mentioned that we did not mention Dorofeev, who right now is on a top line with Jack Eichel. So look out for him potentially.
Could be a miss on our part.
Could be a miss
he
on our part.
Never hit 60 points. I don't know.
Uh,
We'll see.
He's given an opportunity, so that's
Hey,
great.
I'm willing.
I
to
almost
learn
drafted
from,
him today, actually.
I'm willing to learn from our listeners, just like we learned from our listener from Pittsburgh that talked about how Malkin was going through some stuff, and the
listener
started
that
finding
corrected
himself
us.
at the end. The listener that corrected us on Shifley. I'm always willing to learn. It's great having people with so much feedback. So please continue liking, subscribing, commenting on our posts. We'd love to get you on Discord so we could actually have full conversations with you guys as well. Thank you to everybody Thank you to...
Do you want to give them a quick take on our
What's
draft for
happening next
tomorrow?
week? Yeah,
For next week?
Next week, yes.
we have a fun draft
So
next week.
exciting, so exciting. Okay, you guys talk about it.
No, it was your idea.
Yeah, it was your
I
idea.
wasn't part of it last year, but last year Nick and Junior basically took one player per team. If they took a player from that team, you were not allowed to take another player.
Who won that year?
Ooh, it was you. I think you
By a
slaughtered him.
landslide, yeah.
So this year, unfortunately, when we're 3, it's very hard. We wanted a minimum of 16 players. on our teams to make it a bit interesting. So what we're gonna do is we're basically gonna print all the logos of every team. We're gonna place them on the desk. We're gonna do it in a way of who drafts first. We pick a card. We do not know which card it is. Whatever team it is, we need to pick a player from that team. Once that team is picked, we put it aside. Once all 32 teams are picked, after that,
we reshuffle the
we
deck.
have to reshuffle the deck because we still have about, I think, another 10 drafts, 10 picks to do. And then it's basically a wild card of whatever team we take and whatever positions are left.
There's going to be
Yeah.
some luck involved in this
Yes.
year's, but it's going to be a fun
But
exercise.
it's fun. It's fun because it makes you have to pick on the spot. There's no preparing necessarily
That's
so
right.
much.
It's
right?
gonna really test our knowledge, test the amount of research that we do on this podcast.
And McDavid might not go first overall.
Maybe it's Bouchard.
Maybe.
Thank
See
you
you
all
next
for
week,
listening.
guys.